So, I wanted to do a little VOD review from games from London. I'm planning to do all the Prism games, but I'm going to start with my own. They're the ones that I know the most on. I know what I was thinking when I made certain plays, and see what I think I did right and what I think I did wrong. So I'm going to start out with the first stream game that I did of the two. This was round 13 against Aaron Chance. We're both at 10-2. He's on Slippy. This matchup is generally pretty good for Prism. They don't have a ton of armor, and Calming Gesture goes a long way. It can prevent you from getting marked for stuff like Black Widow, or just even protecting angels from flick knives is really good. And then it curves very well with Prism ability. If you pitch a yellow for Halo on their turn, it curves well. Even I've just made the Spectral Shield with a spare floating resource at the end of one of my turns, especially if it's late game, and it just insulates an angel just a little bit better. Something to be careful of in these Arachne matchups is that you don't overextend on board, because picked pieces getting 10 ward is a great way to lose a game. So I'll often just try and sit at 6, where it's 2 shields and an angel. Any more than that gets very dicey, but it's still a generally favorable matchup. They don't have a ton of poppers. They don't love running a ton of poppers. They can play them, but it's generally just 3 Command and Conquers, which is totally fine for us. I'm very okay with running into that, as you'll see. Rapture, this is a Herald aggro plan. We're just going to hit them. They don't have enough armor or poppers to slow us down, so we can just lean into that. The Crown of Providence, Tunic, Flick Knives, and Snapdragons are pretty standard for Slip Through the Cracks at this point. They're just good stuff. Mask of Deceit doesn't do anything into us, really. It's fine, but also they can't reliably mark us necessarily. This is a matchup fairly similar to Marionette, in that we'll often have a pivot at somewhere in the mid-game 15 to 20 health range, or I guess 10 to 15 health range, where we just kind of say we're not taking damage anymore and we're not getting marked, which means half your stuff doesn't work. So Mask of Deceit ends up becoming a little less good, but that's just kind of the way the matchups go. Sitting down, Aaron won the dice roll. He chose to go first. I'm okay with this. I want to be going second because this is an aggro matchup, and I can't necessarily... They have enough 3 blocks that I can't necessarily push through on turn 0, and Slippy is very good at converting their entire hand, so I don't want them to go second, and I don't gain much from going first, unless I can play an Arclight with double blue and Arsenal something, or I get a Pierce Reality, which would be pretty nice, but Slippy's also pretty good at clearing it without giving up too much pressure. They can bonds into generic attack at it and do that fairly easily. Slippy's very good at turning on bonds of agony. Flick Knives and Snaps gives 2 onboard ways of getting reacts very easily. Maybe not as easy as Marionette could when they're flipped or something, but they're still very good at it. And then the go again printed on the hero card is just Spectra just doesn't do much to them. But they don't have a deck that punishes us super hard for that. Or for not going, for going Heralds, they don't punish us super hard. So, Aaron choosing to go first, I'm okay with this. I would have chosen to go second. But, yeah. Let's drop the audio just a little bit here. Turn 0, he just swings a Hunter's Clave. He pitches a Just Nick and a Take Up the Mantle. This is he's a little attack reaction heavy. It's not a huge amount of information, but it's I shouldn't be surprised if there's another attack react that's going into his arsenal, especially when he passes after this point. But he's just going to pass at this point. It's very hard for him to pressure. I just give up That All You Got. It's the card that I'm happiest to give up, and I can't really give up Figments on daggers to Footsteps because they have piercing, or the daggers have piercing. So Footsteps doesn't really block for anything. Not nearly as good in this matchup as in against like new or something. So I lead off here with red tenacity, and my alternative is a war tune. I'm not super looking to Halo on this turn. There's decent chances that he's Arsenal to D-React and is just going to blow out a Halo for Triumph here. If he has the D-React anyways, then Tenacity's going to cover it. But I'm really not trying to Halo. I just want to play this turn kind of efficiently with good pressure. And I want to say, I'm going to make you have the D-React. I'm going to push through it if I can. But sequencing on this turn isn't a huge thing, I don't think. And I believe I had like double Figment that I wanted to clear or something. No, it was a yellow protection, right? I believe it's yellow protection. But Tenacity is still a little bit of a pet card. I really like it. And this, when he does pop, I'm almost never going to Halo this. Just because I don't need to. 2, his turn 0, it's very, he gets 4 cards to see a D-React and Arsenal it. I'm really not looking to get blown out like that. If I was trying to, and like Tenacity would be a better way to do it because he has to have the D-React in Arsenal. He can't have it in hand, but I'm okay with just presenting the War Tune and saying, give me 2 more cards. And he probably gives me the D-React anyways here. So I just want to kind of get through the resources that he has. This is a Popper and a D-React out of the way. He's not going to have that many of them. And as soon as they're gone, like the floodgates are just going to open unless he wants to give up all pressure. Notably, this is a pick to pieces being blocked with, which means it's in grave for Take Up the Mantle. So that's something to immediately be aware of. Now, this is the first... I did not register this at the time. This should set off alarm bells. And in hindsight, it's wild. He's pitching a Persuasive Prognosis to swing Hunter's Glaive instead of just playing it. So he cares very much about having me marked right now for whatever is going in his arsenal. So there's 2 things that immediately come to mind for that, which is Take Up the Mantle, and I guess Savor Bloodshed is like secondary, but Take Up the Mantle is like absolutely on my list at the moment. Now, there could also have been weird stuff. Like he doesn't want to flick here. So there's no reason to go like Prognosis into Mantle flick on this turn. It doesn't really do anything. He's playing this a little slow, but I'm okay with him playing with this going this slow at this point. If his first full turn is 1 value and I get marked, I'm okay with that. But I need to be aware that his arsenal is something that is going to mark me. But I'm not going to give him a card. I'm going to double Herald again and push through. Now, that gives us a little bit of information in that he's probably not setting a D-React, which means we're not filtering again. And this hand, unfortunately, does not play through Footsteps. It can't be played through Footsteps if I get popped. It is a yellow and a 2-cost Herald left in my hand. I cannot pay for both. So I'm kind of forced to Halo here, but I feel pretty comfortable with this Halo. He has to have his second of his D-Reacts in hand. It is a risk, but I think it's a fine risk given especially the way he played out the last turn, that he's not setting a D-React. If I thought he might be setting a D-React, I would feel way worse. But given this information, the likelihood that he's not on a D-React, this Halo is pretty safe. So, and since the hand also just literally doesn't play without it, we're going to pitch the Erudition for it. We're going to keep it in our deck. Herald of Judgment doesn't do anything. And then we go get Figment of Triumph, make this not a popper. And we kind of, we get a little bit paid out that he just doesn't have the resources to stop us at this moment. But if we, so like if he has the D-React here, it's pretty rough for us. I probably don't flip Triumph, and I just Arsenal and pass, and I'm sad about it, but that also means 2 of his D-Reacts are gone. He's only hitting me with a 3-card hand, so I'm going to take some damage, and then I'm going to try and pivot back. This would also be 2 poppers and 2 D-Reacts gone. So, even if this is a D-React, I'm probably okay with the game state overall. It's a little spooky, but we get kind of paid out with a little bit of I don't want to say educated, but a reasonable gamble. And protection hitting, giving his Spectral Shield, he's just icing on the cake for protecting Figment of Erudition, or Shariah, because we're going to flip her, we're going to send the attack. We unfortunately have a red in our hand, so we're just a little light on resources, and we're once again gambling on our draw. It's not an unreasonable gamble. The odds that we draw a playable Herald are pretty darn good. We basically just have to not draw double red. And even if it's double red, it has to be not War 2. So there's like 6 cards in the deck because Red Tenacity's gone. And then 1 less because Red Protection's gone. And then 1 less because Herald of Triumph is gone. So our hand is pretty playable as long as we draw a Herald. And then we have the Ponder. We're going to refresh Arsenal. We're into a 5-card cycle. We're very happy about this. Everything is just kind of going swimmingly at this point. And we're getting a little lucky and paid off. This was weird. This is another piece of information that just like should set off, should raise some red flags, is when they're blocking an Angel with a Justinic. They're worried that card is stuck in their hand. That card is dead. Because he's worried that if I don't have, in my mind, he's worried that if I don't send another Herald, he's not going to be able to clear that card and he's not going to get any value out of it. So he's cashing in 3 value right here. Which is, it's pretty inefficient, and those hands, his hand is kind of a clunker then. And I think he gets a little bit stuck here on, as a result, where I get to send a 6, and if he has another 3 block, he can probably just cover this. And it's another Soul and Spectral Shield. And I get to go back to 1 Soul, going into my next turn, get another Figment out. Like, everything is going exactly the way I want it to. So in my head, I think Aaron maybe needs to be okay. If he's planning to block out the second Herald, which he could. And I would be... It would be a detriment to me if he did block out that second Herald, even just not even ignoring the Spectral Shield, but just because of the Soul concern. But the texture of his hand is a little rough, and he's just trying to get the value out of it. But if he's going to block something, he has to be willing to block the Herald. So we get Savor, we get Kiss of Death, and he has a card left over, and I'm pretty sure it's a Codex, if I recall correctly. So like his hand was not good for... this hand actually like could have covered the second Herald fine. You can get stuck with the Justinic, and you might end up discarding it if I can't send a second Herald. But you can like block with Kiss of Death and then go Savor Codex. It's not a good hand, but it's a hand. You still like get the same turn, but you got to stop my second Herald from hitting. You keep me off a Soul, you keep me off another Spectral Shield. That might have been... That feels a little off, and I'm much happier with this outcome than if he had taken the other line and blocked my second Herald. But... Here... So I make a little bit of a mistake here. What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to deny him a card. I am marked. So this is for 7 on hit 1 and draw a card with Go Again. This draw card could be pretty good because the innate Go Again from Slippy. And I can insulate myself, and my hand functions pretty well. There's one issue. I have War Tune, Figment, Passing Mirage now in my hand, and I have a War Tune in Arsenal. That hand won't work super well. I'm supposed to block with the War Tune that's in my hand, because no matter what happens, I can clear the Passing Mirage out of my hand, and I don't want to get stuck with that. That's not a good Arsenal. I would, like, be flipping an Angel for value, or pitching it away to Rapture, or just pitching it away to, like, Calming Gesture or something. And, like, maybe I was worried here he has, like, a Tarantula Toxin, and I'm going to have to go Calming Gesture, Rapture. But, like, I think I don't even cover it. Or, not Calming Gesture, Prism activation to flip an Angel. But I think that doesn't even cover it, because Toxin takes this to 10, and I'm blocking for 0, and then I would cover it. But, like, I still just block with the War Tune here, and I'm in the same spot. So this is just a mistake from me, and I can definitely get stuck with this passing mirage and be forced to essentially just burn a card, which is not good. I kind of got stuck in my head a little bit on like War Tune cost curves are good. Keeping a War Tune to like try and filter it is like not filter, but like set it up for like, because I've got a War Tune this turn and I can War Tune next turn, but no, this is just me blocking with the wrong card, and I get bailed out a little bit here, and I believe this is Aaron deciding if he wants to Codex, and this made me really think it was a Codex, because like we've gone through damage and all that stuff, and he's just deciding like, what do I want to do here? So like I don't know. I get bailed out a little bit on this one, but War Tune gets to come in for 7. We've got the Courage token from Figment of War last turn. It is at least a breakpoint that I'm presenting. If I'm trying to ditch this passing mirage, this is going to make it awkward. He's seen 2 of his sync belows. He doesn't want to give any of his equipment. He might give Crown of Providence here if he's got 2 cards to also block with, but like if he's going to start blocking with 2 cards, honestly, I'm okay with yeah, and then this is just like, this is brutal. Aaron and I briefly talked after the game, and he said that this was definitely a mistake. And I'm just going to kind of get a do-nothing Figment for this one. Just to clear it out, I like to keep Ravages in the deck just for just to kind of keep that threat there of you're actually at 1 less life than you think you are. But this means I get to pitch away the Passing Mirage, I get to swing an Angel. I'm going to end with 1 soul still, because I'm not going to use an ability here. This is just generic for vanilla from the Angel. We're not going to use any abilities on any of our Angels for this one. We're going off an Arsenal, which can get a little spooky, but we're kind of okay with it, given where the game is going to head. We're going to present another 10 at least, and we're up 11. Like, yeah. And then we'll talk about Aaron's hand when we get to his turn, because he's basically committed to no blocks at this point. And I send a War Tune, it's only for 6, but his hand... Okay, so since they're focusing in on his hand is weird, because it is a Codex in his arsenal, as we'll find out. And I'm pretty certain it's a Codex at this point. And going off arsenal is a little weird for me then, but not like crazy. But I guess I could have put the Passing Mirage into Arsenal as bait, and that would have been kind of funny, and it prevents me from discarding a card, and I get a better card. That would have been nifty, but I want to put him to 10. I want to stress his life total, and I have a Red Tenacity in discard, so like if I want to play around Flick Knives, Leave No Witnesses, I can, and then I keep the Tenacity and be like, you have a popper, or I'm taking your armor now. Which is kind of like the last piece that I need to get through for this game. Aaron's hand is weird because it's Infiltrate, Bonds of Agony, Tarantula Toxin, and Shred. So Bonds gets really scary if I try and block it. But the game is in such a point where I guess he like, I don't know if he just like misjudged it or what, but like if he's gonna drop to 10, potentially 9 with Ravages, and try and bonds me, he has to do that multiple turns in a row. And like Codex could absolutely just, between Codex and bonds, he could just take my entire hand forever. Or not forever, but like for that turn. He's going to take at least 2 cards, and then I have maybe 2 cards to send a Herald back, but I'm pretty okay with that game state, considering you have to send the Infiltrate first, clear the Angel, and then bonds, and I have to block it. Because Toxin needs a target to a blocking card. Shred needs a blocking card for bonds to get online. There's Snaps and Flick Knives, so you've got 2 of them, but either one of these you have to have a blocking card to target to minus the block value on. So this, I believe what Aaron said he should be doing is, because he has Tunic, he just goes like Dagger CNC, and he blocks this for 6, and that's a much better spot for him to be in. I probably cover it fairly easily with just like a blue, but I'm also getting Codexed. So I'd still be down like 3 cards, but I probably have an Angel flipped and Spectral Shield, but it's a little weird. He commits to the Bonds line, I guess, as a... if I recall correctly, it was like, this is kind of the way back in, is I block with a card, get it. Bonds gets online, and he just gets to kind of rip my hand apart between that and Codex. Not ending with an Arsenal here is actually a little risky. I don't think I was trying to do that when I blocked with the Herald of Judgment. Hi, bud. But I don't know. I end up in a pretty good board state. Come on. But this game ended up a little weird and ended up in my favor. I get Ravages out just for the one ping. I want to have it out of deck. I'm just trying to get all the Figments out of my deck at this point. I'm not worried too much about... obviously, Halo's gone, so I'm not worried about any of those tricks. But, yeah. Cleanup, pass. We have 6 ward on the board. We're up 22 life. Like, that's fine. Infiltrate comes down. I'm just going to say no blocks to this. I have 6 ward. I don't really care about Infiltrate. If he gets to swing a Herald at me, that's funny. But I'm not worried about it. Come on! Yes. Alright, so when this Bonds comes down, let's see if they get to my hand. Let's see. Okay. So let's see if I... So it is a red War Tune, a blue Protection, an Arclight Sentinel, and a yellow Ravages. So there's no cards that share names, which means no matter what, he can only take 1 card from me. If he can't take my only yellow, he can't take my only Herald. If things get really weird, I kind of assume he's snapsing this. I am marked, so he could take up the mantle here. But there's no incentive because of pick to pieces, and that is part of why I let the Angel go on the Infiltrate. I'm very happy in these matchups that have anti-prevention effects. I'm very happy to cash in ward value where I can. When I know that I'm going to get 3 value out of it, I'll take it. When there's it's a Flick Knives matchup, I will take 3 value on an Angel. I'm very happy to do so. So from here, I'm just kind of like, well, I'm up 22. It's 31-9. Like, and I still have 2 ward on the board, so I'm at like 33. You have to do this at least twice. You have to strip my hand at least twice and do 10 damage both times for me to care. And that's if I don't just resolve like this Arclight in response after you don't snaps or something. If you just go Mantle, Razor's Edge, Flick Knives, and I'll be like, okay. In damage step, Arclight Sentinel. And then I take your turn and I get 4 cards to hit you when you're at 9. So like I have so many options here, and I also just like... It doesn't matter to me if this Bonds hits. That I'm just like, all right, I'm going to eat this turn. It's fine. Whatever. And in my head, I'm not thinking about Tarantula Toxin. I'm not thinking about Shred. I'm not thinking about any of that. And Aaron's like, oh. Now I have a problem. I can't play these cards. So he can't get Bonds live. So he has to just burn his snaps here to play a Bonds for 1. And he says pass reacts. And I'm like, yeah. And Hunter's Clave, I'm like, sure, no blocks, because I have a Spectral Shield there. Tarantula Toxin, I take 3, Spectral Shield goes, I stay marked. And I'm so unbelievably happy with this board state. Aaron, I believe Codex is here, and he's still just like, now he's really trying to figure out how to get out of the hole. Because this is just like a ludicrous board state that we're in now. Yes, hello, bud. And at this point, I'm like very certain it's a Codex, and we have plenty of time. I'm not like worried about him going in the tank here. Did he just? Oh, he did just pass. It's the next turn where he like 1-card Codexes. So I lead off with Ravages here. I'm kind of looking for the Popper first, where it's like I want to take the Popper and then pay footsteps, War Tune for 7, get the break point, and be like, you need to have the popper and your sink below on this turn to stop a Herald from hitting, or you start giving me armor. So just a little bit of sequencing stuff, because if he gives me 6 block on the Ravages, that's also fine. And then I send the War Tune, and I'm pretty happy with that board state. So I'm just kind of like, at this point, I just want to keep putting pressure on him. I know he'll break. That's his 3rd CNC. So everything's kind of free reign now, except for Erudition. Erudition just doesn't work. He gives me all 3 cards, and he's going to 1-card Codex, which is fine. Which I guess he didn't have a Leave No Witnesses until now. Now that I'm looking back and thinking about it, this is his first Leave No Witnesses, yeah. Which is why he didn't Codex the previous 2 turns, because it just wasn't... He could have Codexed the Kiss of Death on 1 turn if he'd blocked with it. But he didn't have a Leave No Witnesses until now, I just realized. Okay. So now I'm just kind of mathing out, because this is a case where I want to protect this card. I guess just because I can. I don't have a way to double War Tune in hand. If I had a way to double War Tune, then I for sure protect the War Tune that I pull here. I'm kind of just like, protect my life total. The Ponder's a blind card. It's not an arsenal that he gets to set and pick, so I'm pretty kind of happy, I guess, to let that happen. But also, this 3-card hand isn't great. It's not a double War Tune in hand or something. It's not a Herald into Pierce Reality. I kind of want to just protect. I've got Spare Soul. I've got Calming Gesture for Flick Knives. I'm okay taking a dagger from him here with Calming Gesture, because I have the blue. And that is part of it, is that I have the blue to actively protect everything on this turn. So I can... If I don't have the blue and I can't efficiently protect the board, then I'm probably not going to do this. We're just going to ditch the Soul Shield. I don't need it. There is an argument here for this being red Tenacity instead. Just because the Dominate, I just burn through armor. But I kind of want to take cards from him. And also, keeping the red War Tune for later is also an option. And I'm trying to remember what, because I know it's a yellow Triumph. Yeah, we see Flick Knives come out, and I'll just crack Calm Gesture, cash it in, and I'm very happy. I'm happy with this trade. We're at a life total where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And I go with this War Tune, and I guess in my head I'm just like threatening a double War Tune turn, and that's why I would do that. I don't have it, but I need him to think that and give me cards. And I can, like, do a similar thing with Tenacity, but then, like, Flick Knives with 1 knife, with 1 dagger out is just way less impactful. I don't know. This is... I'm setting up, I believe it's a Triumph in Arsenal. But representing double War Tune here is still worth it in its own kind of regard. And I believe I have Erudition, Light of Soul, and Wrath here. So I just, like, do not care what he does unless he takes 3 cards from me. I know that I'm basically about to close this game out because all of his poppers are gone. He has to be setting a D-React in Arsenal. The Justinic to pump it to 6, that's fine. That's just damage. That's the same as a red Mark of Black Widow. And I will banish the... what is it? Red Triumph, and then a card off the top. This is just kind of like, I don't care. Send me the bill. Unless you can take this Erudition out of my hand, I'm gonna hit you. There's nothing else. It's time to use my life total as a resource and push. And this Leave No Witnesses, I say no blocks before he's got the dice down. I know what's happening. And I'm just happy to give up that Arsenal. It was just a yellow Triumph. So was it better to... It might have been better to keep the War Tune, I guess. But I guess threatening the double... it lets me threaten an Angel attack if I send the War Tune on the last turn. Because I can, like, swing Ravages for ability. He has to respect that when I play my Arsenal as well. As well as it threatens double War Tune. So I think that's a line that I should be taking there. That's a line that I'm pretty happy to take, but I don't I guess I don't remember my exact thought process in that moment, but threatening the Angel swing is worth a lot in that moment. And I'm happy to Arsenal the triumph. Erudition, pitching Light of Soul, trigger Light of Soul. It is a That All You Got. And I'm thinking, because like That All You Got's pretty good against them, but they're not going to be swinging daggers at me anymore. As well as I don't want to draw that off of Herald of Erudition. I want to draw another Herald. And that's the piece that really pushes this over, puts it into Soul, as well as just getting another Soul is fine. It's not a Herald, but whatever. Frailty doesn't matter. We're just gonna do our thing, and this Ponder for him was blind. This was not a card that he set. This was his Arsenal was the blind Ponder. It was not a card he set, so it's less likely to be a D-React. I believe he only has one left. And then this is going to take the last. If he doesn't give me the armor here, I'm very happy with that, because I get to swing Angel into Herald, presumably. If he does give me the armor here, I have the Wrath for the punish, and the game kind of... It doesn't end, but it's like... he's so far behind at that point, especially since I have all the other two Eruditions still in my deck. They're getting shuffled around. I'm just pushing his life total and pressuring him here. He took 2 cards, and I'm still going to send a double Herald turn and flip an Angel. He gives me the armor, and making me have the Wrath. Like, I don't take this line without the Wrath, pretty much. At least not quite like this, I guess. Like, maybe I just have another Herald, but that I'm going to Arsenal. But having the Wrath here is, like, it feels pretty face-up, because I also haven't Wrathed anything yet in this game. So, like, they're going to show up. But I think he doesn't have a choice. He has to make me have it. I get Figment of Protection here. I haven't gotten it up to this point in the game, because I've always had, like, 2 Spectral Shields. And I'm trying not to overcommit to the board, so I put the I bring out Protection this turn, and I'm just kind of like, I'm going to get another board full of Ward, and you have to deal with it. I'm going to get Ravages, I'm going to swing Ravages, and I'm still left with 1 Soul. Like, just everything is lining up where I want to put it. 4 and 2 Arcane, this does present lethal, this does get a card from him. We're blocking the Angel because we have to. It's at 4. He gives up Prognosis. He's got 2 cards plus an Arsenal. This is just so hard for him at this point. Up sticks. I'm just not going to ALS here. There's no reason to. I go in the tank for a minute here, because in my head I'm like, well, what if I can cover this and just sec him again, and I take 3 cards, or I take 2 cards, I set him to 1. And I start doing the math, because I think I have a Soul Shield in my hand as well. Yeah, I do have a Soul Shield in my hand, and I do have a blue, and I'm just trying to think, like, how do I block this so that Second gets to live, so that Ravages gets to live, and I can just deal another 2 Arcane. The Soul Shield's also going to get me the Soul, because I probably have to flip an Angel here. There's no Flick Knives, there's no extra cards in his hand. It's just 11 that I have to contend with. Very efficient 3-card hand, 11 on hit 1, but it's just not relevant. And I eventually talk myself down from it, because I have another Erudition in hand. And he has no Arsenal. And I talk myself down from the blocking line. I don't need to. He's not drawing cards off this. He's not taking cards out of my hand. And I see the line that should be... It's likely that Ravages is a 100% win line, but it's also just like... It feels like stuff can go wrong, because I leave him with more cards, most likely. Whereas this should just always... This basically can't go wrong. Like, Ravages is, like, very close to 100% win, I think. I think this is 100% win. There's almost nothing he can do. I've seen all 3 Command and Conquers. If he has another Popper, I can play around, and I still take 3 cards, which is the same as Ravages, but I'm just, like, still... I could even flip an Angel, but Erudition hits, and the game is just, like... There's nothing he can do at this point, for sure. He doesn't have a shelter or anything. Fail to Find, as Rebirth is in the pitch zone at the moment. It would probably just put back, like, Yellow War Tune. We're going to flip War, and because he's at 2, I'm gonna use War ability to make it 5. This lets I'm gonna my pitch gets weird here because I'm playing as if he has another D react, I think, which I believe he actually does, and I might have miscounted his sink belows at one point here for this, and I believe he like sunk into the sink or something. But this 5, just if this takes 2 cards, then I just send a Herald, and that's game for sure. If he has another sink here, he can give 2 cards and maybe cover a Herald, but he's never clearing this Angel. Yeah, this being 5 is just a nice little break point, and it's not anything crazy, but we're just kind of going through the motions here. And he has to just kind of hope that I have a blue Herald and I don't have a Wrath. So I think I miscounted his sinks at some point in watching this. But that, he goes to 1, and I send a 6. Interestingly, so Soul Shield was the last card that I kept. I don't think I have a way to sequence this hand. So I kept the Soul Shield in hand because I wanted to keep a yellow. Because I'm pretty sure I have a Herald in Arsenal. And I want to keep a yellow because the way I, like, just avoiding all possible fail states, I want to have a yellow. No yellow is the way I just, like, can't close the game because I can, like, only send War or something like that. And he can only block for 5, and that's it. This was just, like, everything kind of went my way. And I just, like, I don't know. I just felt like I was doing Herald aggro things, and I just, like, was a little bit disciplined with my Halo, and that paid off big because I didn't Halo the first popper that he gave me. I Haloed the second one when it's less likely he has a D-react, all that. That felt pretty important. And then he just got kind of blown out on the bonds line, which, like, even if he blocks out that turn before, I'm still in a pretty good spot. But it's not just like he's bleeding 20 to send a bonds for 1. Because that, I think it feels pretty reasonable that a Prism is just going to say no blocks because I have double. I don't have any cards that share the same name in my hand. Now, we do run Rainbow of 3 cards, full 9 of War Tune Protection Triumph in this matchup, and we run 5 Wraths, and the Figments don't overlap at all. And I think those are the only, like, full duplicate or, like, multicolored duplicates. Figment's just a little weird, but they can't. You will only be able to take the 1, which there would be cases where that's possible, but there's also ways to work around that. But that bonds, like, was obviously, like, the tipping point. Just, like, he took a greedy line, and I did the Prism thing of say no blocks. But I think even without that, I think I was in a very comfortable spot just because his first turn was not great, and I was able to play through his popper, and then his second turn was also just one card one that just was trying to set up a saver, and it didn't pay off. I made at least one mistake there with blocking with the Judgment instead of the War Tune, just because of cost curves and hand filtering. If the blue is like a Herald, then blocking with that Judgment there is probably actually correct, because I can go War Tune, Arsenal, and Herald. If the first one gets blocked, but I got bailed out a little bit. The deck treated me well in that game. And Aaron's kind of did not. He did. I didn't realize until watching it back just now that he didn't see his first Leave No Witnesses until like 3 turns after he saw the Codex. And just in my head, they just always have to Leave No Witnesses for the Codex. But yeah, that's this one. I'm gonna go record the next one soon. Peace.